Ministering Angels by Lori A. Thompson. Chapter 31, Fire and Wind. Nathan has no trouble brushing Joe off. He's eager to root out the shadow. Andrew meets up with Nathan to find out what is going on. Nathan doesn't waste any time disclosing his circumstance. Look, Andrew, I can't draw. I don't know, I'm distracted or something. I've never said this before, but I just don't want to. Not only that, there's a shadow scooting around this cave. It moves about the boys like it's looking for something, explains Nathan. Nathan begins to walk the area, crouching down low at first, then reaching up on his tiptoes to get a better view. There! Gosh. There! Nathan points and picks up his pace. What? Where? Andrew responds as he begins the same search. There. There again, Nathan exclaims. I don't see it. I can't find it. Dang, Andrew remarks disappointingly. I don't get it. How are we supposed to catch it? Nathan complains, stopping in step now, frustrated with this cat and mouse game. Nathan is suddenly grabbed by the waist and lifted into the air. You don't catch it. It catches you, laughing loudly. Dan jerks Nathan into the air. Nathan yells out loud, shaking. Ah! Nathan turns and sees it's Dan, but still in a state of shock, Nathan fights to gain his composure. You scared me. Dan is so pleased with himself. He keeps Nathan up in the air while he continues to laugh. Nathan adjusts from fear to anger and demands Dan's attention. Kicking his feet, Nathan yells, Let me down, Dan! Dan drops him instantly upon request, still chuckling. Dan bends over and begins to talk while he tries to catch his breath. Dan, Nathan, you surprised me. You saw me. No one was supposed to be able to see me. Not interested in the disappearing act, Nathan wants to know what Dan is up to. What are you doing, Dan? Why are you here? Last time I saw you, I had followed you into that cave. I didn't appreciate your ability to evaporate then, and I don't appreciate it now. Standing up straight, Dan responds, You're a tense little guy, aren't you? Look at you, all worked up. Just then, Joe walks in on the group of boys, surprised to see Dan. Dan, it has been some time, Joe remarks, unsure of Dan's intention. Yes, it has, replies Dan. Dan left the group to grab some wood from the pile, neatly stacked for the preparation fire. He fills his arms with as much wood as he can carry and then drops the wood about 20 paces past the first established fire. What are you doing with our wood? Joe questions Dan. Joe remains still, analyzing the situation, taken back by Dan's assurance in his behavior. Dan smiles at Joe, but doesn't maintain any eye contact as he continues to gather and stack wood. Just watch, he replies. Dan, we need that wood for the preparation fire and for our days ahead. With this storm, I have no idea how long we will have to stay shut up in here. Joe explains, hoping Dan will understand the situation the boys are in. Joe watches as Dan continues to keep his eyes on his own task at hand. I'm guessing you are building a fire, but I have no idea why you would waste supplies when we have a huge fire already burning right there. Joe points to the existing fire as he continues to try to reason with Dan. Just watch, Dan repeats. By this time, most of the boys that have gathered around the fire to watch Nathan have deserted the area. Some are playing games, others are gathered around Abram in a playful attempt to get to know him better, and a few of the boys have wandered off to their rooms for the night. It has been a long day, and this is their chance to escape any further duties that Joe may want to assign for the night. Joe isn't sure how far he really wants to push Dan. Dan's disrespect irritates him, while at the same time he is curious about what he is up to. Dan seems so determined and sure of himself. Dan kneels down in the dirt, adjusting the wood when Joe walks off. Dan motions with his head, whistles with his lips, and waves, summoning Nathan to him. Nathan's eagerness is demonstrated by his quick step, knee drop, and slide to Dan's side. I'm going to show these boys how to bring the girl to them, Dan whispers to Nathan. Really? I didn't know that was possible, Nathan states. Are you sure they are ready for this? I mean, the boys are just trying to keep safe right now. Maybe it could wait until things died down, Nathan suggests. Just watch, Dan replies. Yeah, I will. Dan. Nathan continues to try to make Dan think about his decision while still maintaining friendly communication. Yeah, Dan responds to Nathan. Maybe we can give this a shot without anyone around first, Nathan says. Why? Dan remarks, impervious to any outside suggestions. Well, I don't know. What if something goes wrong? Asks Nathan. Wrong? Dan queries, back only to keep the chatter going while he's starting to light the fire. He's enjoying the company. I don't know. I have never seen you do this, and I guess I am nervous. You might be getting all of us into something we won't be able to get out of, Nathan continues to speculate out loud. At first, Nathan was grasping at straws to keep Dan from exposing the girl, but now Nathan begins to wonder honestly about the safety of the whole situation. Dan has a good little flame going as his own personal fire. With the heel of his foot, he digs in and traces a circle around the fire. Then he lays the stone down inside the circle, next to the fire. Nathan's eyes light up at the sight of the stone as if it's precious as gold. He is drawn to it with a longing in his heart to have it in his possession. Nathan doesn't feel like feeling, so he tries to distract himself with technicalities of the ceremony. That's a pretty small fire, Dan. Is that all the size it will be? Nathan challenges Dan with his uncertainty of the process. Just watch, Dan answers, vaguely while putting his arm out to guide Nathan away from the fire. Without prompting this time, Dan begins to speak softly as he stares into the fire. The size of the flames is not what matters. The girl whispers to me. She tells me how to make her come, no matter where I am. This isn't the only way she's called. With a fire, you have to have pure intention to make it a clean, natural burn. Only one single desire will make her come. Well, of course, one has to have the stone. Nathan remembers how the girl came to him at different times, but he never had the stone. He remains quiet about this detail and looks on. By now, some of the boys have decided to gather around the activity. Joe presents himself as well. He keeps his distance from the happenings occurring close to the fire. Joe thinks it's best if he keeps his viewpoint available to everyone and anything in the cave. Dan points and commands, "Look!" The stone lit up like a bright light. It is so bright a glow surrounds the stone. Dan smiles. He's pleased with himself and what he has done. Suddenly, a loud pop comes from the fire behind the boys. Some of the boys are diverted from their heed to the stone ceremony. A few boys hit each other and laugh it off in an effort to regain composure. Nathan tries to keep his eyes on Dan. It is his presence that concerns Nathan. Nathan's body has jerked a little when the preparation fire made itself known, but Nathan notices Dan went unaffected. The boys become silent as seriousness begins to overshadow the room. The increase in tension draws more boys over to Dan and the boys. They move in and settle into the activity with the same general focus on the fire and stone. A wind force comes up over the fire, breaks past Dan, and blows straight down the center of the gathered boys. It moves with such might that the boys' bodies are pushed aside, dividing the group down the center. All of the boys can feel the extension of its presence in some way as the blast of air blows their bodies, faces, hairs, and clothes. The power behind the wind is gone as quickly as it had come. The boys' response to the events kicks Joe's protection instincts into high gear. The younger ones are frozen in fear. Some hold back tears while others are so shaken they cry without care to who's watching. A couple of the older ones gather to tend to them. Other older boys stand with eyes locked on Joe, waiting for instruction. Joe starts pointing and instructing, "You get those boys back into their rooms." Joe has noticed the noise stirred those that had gone to their rooms earlier. Many are shuffling down their lines to come join the group. "You guys," Joe points at a group of 3 older boys in the back, "gather these young ones and get them out of here. No water, no food, Just get them out of here. Neither the force of the wind or the current bustling about moves Dan from his spot. His eyes remain round and directed at his fire and stone. The smile on his face is peculiar to Nathan. He seems proud in a way that he's endured the storm. "Nathan!" Joe yells from a distance. Nathan reacts and turns towards Joe. As he turns, he watches the commotion among the boys. Nathan can hear Joe's loud voice, but none of the words make any sense. The wind moves through the cave once again. It is the same force, except this time it makes its way straight across the room. The path is defined by the stirred-up dirt from the cave floor. The boys that have begun their course back to their room are blown to the ground. Carl calls Joe over to help with a few injured boys. The force has catapulted rocks up and out directly into the crowd of boys. Joe runs over to help direct care for those boys. Nathan is too scared to approach Dan. The presence in the cave is so unfamiliar to him. It speaks no words to Nathan, but it has a richness that aches to tell the story. Nathan isn't so concerned with the destructive fury that invaded their cave. It is the thick stillness penetrating his person he fears that has potential for wreaking havoc. Nathan watches on as another flurry continues its devastation, swirling up the walls of the cave. The boys that were once shuffling up to their rooms are now making their way back down, following their instinct to regroup for safety. Joe responds immediately by barking orders to get back up the lines. Joe looks over to the source of all this turmoil and sees Dan still standing there with his small fire. Exasperated with the situation, Joe marches over to address the problem head on. With each step he takes, Joe imagines kicking over Dan's fire and then throwing Dan out of the cave. The smirk of satisfaction converts into a furrowed brow and pierced lips of determination. Joe walks straight to the fire, undeterred as he passes by Nathan and Dan. Joe comes to the fire's edge, lifts his right leg with intention. He forces his leg down towards the fire, but his foot is not allowed past the ring. A force hits Joe's chest and thrusts his body straight back. His shoulders and hips curl over the force. His legs and arms fly straight out in front of him. Joe's body is propelled across the cave, and then he lands on the ground. Joe lifts his head and props himself up on his elbows. Joe isn't afraid, nor does he think he's beaten. His facial expression reflects a lack of understanding of what he's dealing with. Joe has Nathan and Dan in his line of sight. He observes them like he would any other kind of prey he would want to dominate. Joe remains perplexed by their odd behavior, as each of them look as if they're communicating with the fire. The flames of the fire grow instantly without any help from Dan. The flames reach up and out into the air. Dan and Nathan draw closer to the fire when she appears up and out of the flame. The pleasure he experiences from seeing her and being in her presence is expressed on his glad face. The girl reaches out her hand to Dan. Dan moves in closer and reaches out his hand to meet hers. They join for a moment, and then she is gone. Sensing the weight in his hand, Dan pulls back and looks to see a round, smooth pendant in the palm of his hand. He brushes his thumb over the markings on the smooth stone. Without a word to anyone, Dan walks right out of the cave through the stone wall. The fire returns to its original size, small in body and intensity. Nathan walks over and kicks the logs, the source of Dan's fire. Nathan picks up the stone. It is cool to the touch. It has returned to its natural presence. Flipping the stone over in his hand, Nathan rubs his thumb over the markings etched in the surface of the stone. Lost in thought, Nathan doesn't notice Cameron has made his way up to the fire and is standing right at his side. "I want to go where he's going," Cameron's statement elicits Nathan's attention. Yeah, Nathan sighs. Nathan assumes Cameron is impressed with Dan walking through the wall. "I like Dan," Cameron comments. "Oh yeah, Cameron. Why?" asks Nathan. "He can do lots of stuff, and he gets to go somewhere else," Cameron states. Cameron, he just left the cave. I can show you how to go through the wall if you want. It really isn't all that difficult, explains Nathan. Cameron stands motionless, still amazed by the marvels that just occurred right before his eyes. Hey, Cameron, where do you think he was going? Asked Nathan. Nathan is curious about his perspective and what he thinks he has just seen. He gets to be with other people. He gets to help other boys do what he does. I want to be with other people. If he can do it, why can't I? Cameron reasons. Nathan realizes that Cameron saw and heard more than he did, and Nathan wants to know more. Nathan takes Cameron by the arm and turns him so they are face to face. Cameron, could you hear them talking to each other? Nathan presses Cameron to reveal more of his experience. He wanted something that would help others listen to him, to make it easier for others to find him, Cameron explains. What others? The boys on the island, Nathan asks as he points around to the crowd of boys. Cameron pauses to collect his thoughts. She said he gets to go to a place where people help. With that thing she gave him, he can do more. She said people will find him easier and he will have more power. Power to help, right? Nathan says sarcastically. He said he wanted to help others do what he does, Cameron explains once again. Yeah, Cameron, you can do what he does on your own. You don't need him or this stone. Nathan tries to help Cameron understand. Do you know how to do this stuff? Do you know how to make that girl appear? Do you know as much as Dan? Can you show me? Cameron questions Nathan in excitement. Cameron demonstrates his eagerness to follow in Nathan's footsteps, if he has the same knowledge. Cameron, you don't need to match what I do either. All of the things we can do, you can do and more. She will show you how, and you just need to trust yourself. Decide what you want, and you can do it. You just have to want to. Nathan attempts to teach Cameron how to be independent. Yeah, okay. Cameron responds a bit deflated. Cameron begins to walk away from Nathan to go back to his room, as Joe is telling all the boys to do. Cameron stops and looks back and asks, If you don't need the stone, can I have it for a while? Cameron, you don't need this stone. You can do it on your own, Nathan states firmly. Right. Cameron turns and continues on to bed. Nathan looks down at the stone and then back up at the boys bustling around the area. The mystery of the stone has lost its flavor for Nathan. Nathan walks over to join the rest of the boys. Come with me, Dan suggests with an alluring tone. Brad is woken by words spoken in his dream and sits up. Brad shakes Joshua and states with exactness, It is time to get back. Nathan! Nathan wakes from a dead sleep by the sound of his name spoken in his ear. Still groggy from sleeping, Nathan sees Dan sitting next to his bed. Dan, jeez. Nathan groans, swaying his head. His head feels heavy, and his eyes are having difficulty staying open. Nathan, I have to show you something, Dan explains. The liveliness which has filled the cave earlier continues to stir the restlessness seated in many of the boys by the powerful wind. Boys move in and out of their rooms throughout the night. They commune in small groups, huddling in secluded corners of the cave to eat and drink while they remember the incidents of the night. Each boy shares details of their respective encounter. They have shared rumors of whispering voices and new thoughts and desires that have sprouted within them. The mysteries shared are a perfect distraction to the raging storm that beats upon the island. Joe allows the boys to quietly progress for the remainder of the night. Tomorrow will have its own set of issues, and he fully expects the boys to have put the events behind them once the new day begins. All of the boys are expected to pull their own weight with no special consideration given to those who have sacrificed their time to sleep. For now, Joe is willing to accept the buzz of the night air over the chaos of the early evening. Joe falls asleep with immense relief that this day is over.